It is Friday here, rawmike.richards.com, broadcasting live, 234 King Street East, out of the Pacific Junction Hotel. And this is a Friday where it's a frustrated Friday. There's a couple of issues I got on my mind. Apparently, so does the rest of the country. So if the CFL's not that popular, why is everyone tweeting about it? Why is everyone in every venue talking about it? Why is it trending on Twitter? If indeed the blown call during the Bombers game costs a local who's playing the Safeway for Millions, who could have won $1 million upon 2 kick returns in a game. One is you get the home sound system. If they do it again, of course, the CFL, so you got to hold your breath a little bit. I've always loved the promotion. Haven't really seen it this close, though, before, Dave. So the lovely Karen, a woman, not a young woman, gets robbed literally of $1 million. So we'll talk about that. Also, the story of Damari Carroll that is coming out here in Toronto, now not a Raptor, talking a little bit out of class, beyond the locker room, saying that a lack of trust within the Raptors locker room held the team back during the forwards 2 years in Toronto. So now a Brooklyn Net now seems to be a little chatty, Dave. So
where was that the last couple of years?
Yeah. And by the way, okay, I'll get to it because that of all the stories, that one probably pisses me off the most. Our good friend Will Strickland. Will's going to come in probably in about 20 minutes' time or so. He's got lots to talk about. You know, he's got a great take on the NBA. We're going to show you some footage of Lonzo Ball, yet another triple-double. And, you know, it's summer ball, so let's not really, kind of outkick our coverage on this one. We don't have to really, go overboard. But the fact is, he's the real deal. He's got those kinds of skills. If you want to call him a baller, you can do that. We saw it at UCLA. It's the reason he got picked when he did. He basically, chosen by the hand of God to go to the Lake Show, which I'm not hating. I'm not going to hate if the Lake Show becomes the Lake Show again, so we'll take a look at that. Also some Tim Tebow footage. The story of Tebow continues. If he makes it to the show, like if you're going to do, there's a couple of movies I think that have to be made. Number one, the Doug Flutie story has all the almost incredible feats that he did as a, now I'm not sure what they show him on the roster. I know he's been roster sized. They might even say he's 5'11", but I don't think he's 5'11".
No, he's not.
But what he's done in his lifetime, including the utter devastation and the sadness of what happened to his parents. Like it writes itself sometimes in a great way, but it also lends itself to a lot of heartbreak because of what really happened in his life. His son also with autism, the reason he did Flutie Flakes. Like there's so much stuff to Doug Flutie's life. I don't know how that's not made into a movie. Like I'm surprised it hasn't been done yet because it really is almost not real. If you were to start talking about his accomplishments and then some of the very public outcries, whether it's Jim McMahon calling him America's midget, the USFL. Like, there's just so much that happened to him. And again, losing his parents within, I think, 3 hours of each other. I think that's what happened. So that's remarkable. But again, when you start looking at these stories, Tim Tebow, that wouldn't, if he makes it to the Major League Baseball, that wouldn't be a movie.
His life, just in general, has to be made into something, considering what he's done and for the most part, all the good he's done too.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy seems to be a rock solid, person in general. But this baseball thing is crazy. I don't know if we see him in the majors this year. I would be shocked, to tell you the honest truth. But let's just put things into perspective. Mets by September are going to be severely out of the playoffs.
Yes.
What's the best way of getting Mike Richards to a Mets game? By calling up somebody that everybody wants to see. Do you know what I mean? Like, it makes a lot of sense.
And what is it that you can't do? I'll tell you, that one game, was it the playoff game? It was Denver, when he played for Denver.
I think it was against the Steelers, too.
And was it the Steelers?
I think it was.
Where they kept making these crazy mistakes and stepping out of bounds and doing all that stuff.
And then all of a sudden.
And somehow they win. Like, it was the most miraculous, football-like way to win a football game. And somehow Tim Tebow found a way to do it. It's the story of T-ball. Maybe I'll have to do what was it called, the bit that I did. Maybe I'll have to put that to video so we can actually see that thing. But it really lends itself again to being quite a story. So let's start off with at least here in Canada. If you're watching in the U.S., you tell me. It's not like you don't watch a lot of football, and I've seen a lot of calls. In fact, on kick returns and on long plays, as a high school football coach, and if Vinny Shory's watching in Calgary, you know what I'm talking about. There was a flag thrown during a game that I'll take to the grave with me that will never. It didn't matter what guest came on when I was on the Fan in Calgary. I think I asked, I know at Lynn Swan, Pat Summerall. Pat Summerall came on and said, "Hey Pat, have you ever heard of this?" And I did. The Pope could come on, and I would bring up this question. So, in the Safeway kick. What was it?
Yeah, kick to win.
Kick to win. If it happens once, you win the home sound system. If it happens twice, you win $1 million. So one has already been returned, and I believe also by
the first kick of the game, the kickoff. The Langford returned it for the Bombers, and I was like, we're up and running.
Yeah. If you're Karen, you're like, do I really have a chance on this thing? So here's what happens. He's going to run to the end zone. You're going to see this if you're watching this on the dedicated YouTube channel or on rawmike.richards.com. And so as we run this, you can see, here we go. Here comes Jackson. He's breaking it outside. He's to midfield. He could go. And as he's running, okay, do you see the collision behind him? They're going to throw that and call it from behind. Now watch. Do you see how the player right there from Winnipeg lunges on his side in front of him? I don't think 84 even sees it. Just go back a little bit. The reason that I think at first when I saw it, I thought as soon as you see hands to the back, you have to throw the flag.
Yes.
So just like Speedy Banks returning the Hamilton kick for a touchdown in the Grey Cup that gets called back. Hand to the back, you've got to call it. But what happens here, as you see it again, just go back. Obviously the bomber in coverage can't make a tackle, so he throws himself sideways at 84. Look at this. 84 doesn't see him and falls over him. So you can't throw that flag. That is to me a disgraceful call, and one that cost that woman $1 million. Dave, if that
when I watched that play, Mike, I thought it was a penalty, but then when you threw that scenario at me, it's like you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It's literally you're running together, and I'm just gonna lunge myself in front of you because I have a step on you.
Yes.
And what are you gonna do? How are you gonna stop on a dime? And how are you not naturally gonna go like this?
Yeah, that's what happened. That's what happened. I mean, you're going to put your hands because they both wipe out because he got. It's the equivalent of flopping. It's the equivalent of trying to draw or an offensive foul when you truly don't have position. That's kind of what's happening. And of course, it's miles away from the play. But for whatever reason, when I think of replay, when I think of officials getting together to talk about it, sometimes it's like the games take too long. They don't want to see a lot of this kind of stuff. That is the one instance. And look, they're probably not thinking about this Karen who could win $1 million.
No.
But you said your buddy from just tweeted out a pretty funny picture.
He sent out a picture of a referee, basically head to toe. So you have the black pants and you have the zebra top and the black hat. And he wrote on Twitter that this is the brand new Safeway uniform. The official.
Yeah, because the CFL official.
Because the official just saved that company $1 million.
Okay, so what makes this right? You can't go back. The league can't say it was a terrible call. Sorry about that. Because if you're gambling and you lose that game.
It was a terrible call.
Right, it was a terrible call.
It was a ferocious call.
So what does Safeway do?
You know what? If they want to make good on something, and if they want to get some nice PR, and probably get that network over there that we're talking about to do another story on them, give her like $250,000.
I was going to say $100,000.
Yeah.
100. What's $100,000?
You can't give her $1 million.
No.
You can't give her half. So maybe 100, 250, something significant. Where they have the family down there. You pull out the big fat check, the big Happy Gilmore check. You shake hands. You smile. The woman smiles. Everybody's happy. Society, Canada goes, oh, that's really nice.
Yes.
That's really nice of that company to do that sort of thing, and it doesn't cost you a lot of money.
It's $100,000 for like millions of dollars in publicity, and you send her to the Grey Cup on your ticket.
Sure. her.
Get her great. Put her up in the great hotel.
Yeah, give her a Safeway hat to wear.
Yeah,
and
exactly. You're going to make her famous, and you look like the greatest guys in the world.
Yes,
because the CFL, quite honestly, even though they're partners with and Safeway's a partner, a corporate partner of the CFL. The CFL can't get into it because that just looks horrible. And even if you condemn the call, that also looks bad. Like almost any move the CFL makes, they really can't do that much. But Safeway can really cash in on this.
Yes. Ryan, live chat. Give her 100K. Huge publicity.
Oh yeah,
huge
sure.
publicity.
Yeah, sure, Ryan. Ryan, you're all big on. Yeah. Give her $100,000. As Ryan sits at home in his mansion, swimming with his supermodels. I know how you are, Ryan. You and your people. But that is a shame of actual football news that the Bombers get a win in there, and they, I think, really needed one, especially in their home barn.
Did they ever? Yeah. And you know what? Not deserving the way they covered on special teams too. They allowed a ton of yards during special teams. Not just that run back that didn't count. There's a couple other run backs that were over 50 yards. And when you're allowing a 50-yard return on a punt or a kickoff, there's something severely that actually breaks down. So, you know what? Glad they escaped with a win. Not overly deserving, but you know what? You move on and head to the next week.
I was going to come up on the fly with a song here. See if this is going to work. If I can do. I mean, I'm trying things too, to make Karen feel better. Okay. Look at this computer. Could you be slower?
No, it couldn't. While you're looking at that, by the way, Mike, while you're looking at that, the Tebow throw was an 80-yard bomb to Demaryius Thomas against the Pittsburgh Steelers in overtime.
Yeah.
That was the actual scenario. So just to skip back for a second while we skip back ahead, it was Tebow to Thomas for the win.
Okay. Yeah, that was actually Kenny Albert called that game.
Okay.
Kenny Albert called that game. He said he couldn't even believe it. Oh, this computer's not working at all. Sorry, Karen. I was going to come up with something real nice here.
And she's watching right now,
to make you feel better. I keep hitting play. It just, the wheel keeps spinning around. I got to tell you, Gates, whoever the little weasels, I don't sound like Colin McGregor. You fucking weasels. I'm trying to do something nice.
It's probably Showtime.
And you're sitting there like a little fucking bitch.
It's probably Showtime.
How about that?
Okay. And Showtime takes it on the chin.
Eh? And we'll get to a lot of. Here we go. Maybe now it's spinning. Now here comes a song. Is this going to work? Let's try it. This is for. Oh boy, is this holy what a terrible version. Christopher Cross. Okay, that's no. Where is it? Sorry, folks. I'm just.
Russell should sing it. Put up the karaoke and let Russell sing it. That should be a segment.
Here we go.
Russell sings karaoke. Russell likes it, I think.
Think of Karen. And don't cry. I know that's she wanted. Hey, hey, hey. Think of Karen. Give her that money, 'cause the CFL don't work that way. Why am I talking like Adam Sandler? Give me the fucking money. I don't know. Christopher Cross, fuck you. Think of love. Sailing. Fuck off. Fuck. Get off the. Shut up. I think that's probably the engineers were doing when the song was being recorded. Hey guys, we got a song. All right. Yeah. Here he goes again. He's shit. Think of Lord. Okay. All right. It's a little high. And you're bugging everyone. All right, Chris. Let's try it again. Fuck, I hate this guy. Here we go. Take two.
You know, it's funny you say that. My first job in television was behind the scenes in what they call master control VTR. So a lot of it is I guess studio talk. So you have your studio in front of you, glassed in, soundproof, and you have all the people behind, the audio people, the Chiron people, engineers, a director, producers, and everything. Everybody in the studio, the anchors, hear nothing.
Yes.
Everybody inside constantly mocks the actual. That guy just screwed up. Oh, what is he doing with his tie? What is he? It's so funny that you say stuff like that. It's so true.
Here's the other thing too. So you're the voiceover person, and the person on the other side of the glass is the engineer. And generally, in your cans, in your headphones,
Yep.
they're talking. They put down a button, and only you and him can hear each other when they do it.
Yeah.
One of the guys I talked to almost the most, and I did a lot of voice work when I was younger, was our buddy Bruce,
Okay.
huge
yeah.
engineer.
Yeah.
So the girls from the agency were going, can you try that one more time? Yeah, sure. You're saying one line, and the line would be like this. Okay, so okay, here we go again, and we're rolling. Labatt Blue. Now you're laughing. And then Bruce would go, they're just talking about it. Here comes the girl.
Can you try it one more time and just do it a little with more of a smile?
Okay, here we go. All right, take 50. Here we go. Labatt Blue. Now you're laughing. How's that? Bruce. These guys are fucking idiots. They don't fucking know. They're shit.
Mike, can you do it? And
It's so true.
That's honestly what it's like.
It's so true.
The thing that got they excited the most about was lunch.
Yeah.
I'd take like half an hour. I'm sitting there going, I've done that line
Yeah.
a million times. Because that was one of my lines. Like, well, there was a bunch of them. Taco Bell. Remember, yo quiero Taco Bell. Yeah, you're looking at them.
That's you.
Yeah. All that stuff.
And then the dog replaced you later.
That's how it goes.
Stupid dog.
Yeah.
You're crap.
Yeah. It's the only thing TSN 1050 didn't do. Just put a dog in there. Probably get better ratings. You're watching rawmike.richards.com. You're also watching on the dedicated YouTube channel. Remember Calgary? Coming to town the 24th to the 28th, live from the Elbow River Casino. Unfortunately, if you're looking for Davey, he's having some dental stuff of all the times, I know, right?
I know.
Of all the times.
I know.
But within 3 months, we're back. Look for us back in October. The Elbow River Casino will become the home of Mike Richards in Calgary, and it's just one of the regular stops we're going to make. Good friend Scotty Roberts making it happen. Of course, we go from 11 o'clock. It'll be their time, so Mountain Time, 11 o'clock to whenever. And, of course, you know who's going to show up, and then a lot of the guys that you haven't heard in a long time in Calgary and some of the famous voices, they'll all be there. So remember, that is the 24th to the 28th at the Elbow River Casino. Speaking of Tim Tebow, what can he not do? Well, he's playing for St. Lucie, so this is A-ball, right? This is the, I guess, of the levels of A-ball. This is what kills me with baseball. I mean, there's actually levels of baseball. So he's now playing for St. Lucie. This is him in the 7th inning. Is it a walk-off? You tell me. There it goes. Back. Done! Look at Tebow. Rounding the bases. The team comes out. And he also has, look at the team's friends, the team's families, they're on the, and then, look at this. What a great story. And then, of course, the Tebow chants. Tebow. Or unless they're just chanting T-Bone. I think it's Tebow. There it is. From the St. Lucie Mets. There you have it right there. It's a great story, though. Don't you think?
I love it. I love it. But you know what? Major League Baseball pitchers will eat this guy up because all you do is throw him off-speed stuff, junk in the dirt, and he'll be like, it's like a video game, right?
You know, it's just
double swings.
Changing velocity for those guys in the show. I'm amazed how when they throw a changeup, that the best hitters
exactly
in the game sometimes can't tell the difference. So you look at a guy like Chris Sale. Chris Sale would be an example.
Cy Young this year, by the way.
So this big, yet another giant on the mound.
Yeah,
can throw faster than a hurricane. But when he throws that changeup, you can't tell from the way that he delivers the ball. It's a thing of beauty, and he does it even the time in between the pitches. He never lets you get set. I mean, it's if you're talking about the Kershaws of the world, I got to put him in there too. Is he? Do you not think he's in the same universe?
Kershaw is the best pitcher of this generation, and when everything's said and done, if he maintains what he's been able to do, and I know he's had some playoff failure, but I'm talking about just in general numbers, what he has done for the Dodgers, and just his overall book. he might go down in history as a top 10 pitcher of all time. That's how good Clayton Kershaw is.
So this is a good story. I don't know if we continue on in terms of stories, but when you talk about the McGregor-Mayweather circus that continues on.
Yeah, this could end at any time for my money.
The first two pretty good.
Yeah,
I thought Toronto was excellent.
Toronto peaked, and then
they're running out of material. There's only so many more insults, especially when Mayweather doesn't really have a smack game, to be honest. Like, he does his talking in the ring. If we're going to be fair about this, Floyd will do his talking in the ring. And Conor McGregor is a way more verbal person than Floyd. And really, not surprisingly, with the Irish gift of the gab. But now it's becoming like an awkward show that you'd see when amateurs get out in front of a strip joint or something. Like, it's got this, including now making it rain. Now, this is from the Barclays Center. This is in Brooklyn. And this is what also surprises me. You would think in Brooklyn that there might be more of a home field advantage a little bit from Mayweather. Like, I get why Conor McGregor with the Irish community here in Toronto, why it kind of looked like it did. It was going to be a whiter crowd for sure, but not to get too, black and white. I'm just saying that I'm surprised that Mayweather wasn't more of a crowd favorite in Brooklyn, and he wasn't. But once again, if you start to listen to what they're saying, they're not saying a whole bunch now. They're kind of running out of profanity. So, courtesy of and property of UFC, the broadcasters, Showtime, and obviously the Barclays Center, here's what happened last night. So a lot of dancing, a lot of now no shirt. Then the stare down, which now this goes on for quite a while. Now listen to the ole ole. That's the Irish. That's the Irish singing that. So at this point, as you're watching the video, because it's a bit of a show and they both know it, right? It's not like they really, they're doing what Ali used to do, except they're both in a sort of WWE way, kind of. And here's Dana White.
From Dublin, Ireland, the reigning, defending 155-pound champion of the UFC, the notorious Conor McGregor.
So yelling now. By the way, also from Fight Focus as well.
12-time world champion. 5 different weight classes.
Boom.
The highest paid athlete in all sports.
Hear that?
The best ever to do it. Brooklyn, put your hands together for none other than
Here comes
Floyd Money Mayweather.
Booing.
It's the N-O-T-O-R-I-O-U-S. You just lay down slow. Recognize a real dawn when you see one.
You know what I smell? I smell a bitch.
Smell a bitch. That's not very nice.
50 cents a bitch.
What? Okay. All right. At this point, I think we've had enough of people calling each other a bitch. I don't know about you. Is anyone else is anyone watching this and going, hey, think they're out of material?
They're way out of material. Everything stopped in Toronto, and now they. Yesterday, even the crowd was dead, and they were late. I actually watched.
Yeah, they were late. That's right.
Yeah, I actually watched the stream, and they had this loser come out, Dougie Fresh, who would dance to music by other bands, and it's like, dude, get off the stage.
That's your thing. That was the
it was terrible. And then,
but that gives me a great idea when we do some of our live shows.
You're gonna get
Russell Fresh. How about roast beef fresh?
Rusty Fresh.
Roast beef fresh. Can you do some dance moves?
Yeah, you can.
Oh, yes, you can.
Oh, sure you can.
Don't you lie to us.
Russell Fresh.
I hear you talking to the girls in the bar after the show.
It dropped off the face of the earth in Toronto. The only thing that will save it, because they're in London tonight, London, England. The only thing that will save it is if there's a shoving match tonight. And I think if I'm scripting this, which of course it isn't, I'm shoving tonight. I'm not punching because you can't do that.
But if you're Dana, so you're watching, the your meal ticket right now. I mean, there's
That is
nothing
his
bigger
meal
than
ticket.
this. I mean, it could be like $1 billion or whatever it's going to end up being. Are you okay with the shoving? Because this is where the weird stuff happens.
No, that's the way it is. Oh, you bring it on. You prepare for it properly where they're meeting face to face and you have one or the other start the shove.
So they're both in on it.
Oh yeah, absolutely they are.
Right.
And you know what? If I'm betting, which I wish I could bet on this, I'm betting the shove tonight. If this is Mike Tyson 90s, Mike Tyson is punching somebody if he hears some of the stuff that they've went back and forth on. Because of where we are and how they're trying to promote this fight, and let's not kid ourselves, they're doing a fantastic job because there's a lot of people, including Darren Ravel, who says this will be the highest grossing pay-per-view in the history of sport.
Well, and on that note, when I come back from Calgary, we will have a huge announcement about that very night and what we're doing, because it might be, as much as you think you might know what I'm going to say, I know you don't. I know you don't know what I'm going to say. So when I come back from Calgary, to follow up what Dave just said, we here on rawmike.richards.com are going to have a huge announcement around that date. So make sure you stay tuned.
Are me and Russell going
for
to
that.
shove each other?
That's
Because he has a tendency of shoving me every single time I walk into this
you're
place.
on the undercard.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I wonder how long that fight would go. Because Russell can run.
He can run.
He can do
You know
somersaults
what?
and stuff. You don't
sometimes
know.
I just don't want to run, especially when I'm wearing flip-flops.
Yeah. I don't think Mastel's taking this fight seriously. He's got flip-flops. So there's so many opinions out there. So many opinions on what people think are going to happen. If you're on the boxing side of things, and most are, they don't think this thing's even close. They think this thing is going to be a joke. Those that kind of sit in the middle, because then you get some UFC guys who, really believe that Conor can do this. But what's interesting, this is off of YouTube. How do you pronounce that word even?
What's that?
Geheimen?
Yeah, I guess so.
So I'm just trying to obviously give credit where credit is due. And they found some celebrities that have made comments about this. So this is Mark Wahlberg. He's been being interviewed for the movie
Hey,
Transformers.
say hi to your mother for me.
That doesn't come up, but the fight does. Here's Mark Wahlberg, courtesy of this internet site, and he gets asked the question, well, what about that fight?
Who would you like to see in that fight?
Well, obviously Mayweather has the advantage, and he's very careful in choosing to fight him in the ring and not the octagon. But Conor, I think, is a different kind of fighter. If you look at whether it be Canelo, Canelo never really went after Mayweather, and I don't think he has the power to knock out McGregor. So I think Conor's going to be willing to go in there and take a couple shots to get one. And it'd be interesting to see if he could catch Floyd, if Floyd could handle that power and that punch. So I've always been one to see, that kind of greatness tested. And I know Conor's going to bring it, and, he's not going to be scared to get hit. So I think, the boxing world, everybody says that's not even going to be a comparison. It'll be a boring, dull fight. I'll be the first one to buy it. I'll be the first one there, and I hope to see.
Ringside.
I hope to see something interesting happen. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I want to see something interesting happen, and I think actually, again on the phone talking. So there's my son, right? We talk every night. He's out in Calgary now, and of course, and then all his friends on Facebook or Twitter, they all sort of get involved, and there is this consensus, and I do agree with it. If Floyd's not going to knock him out. And I don't see that happening. I see this either as some sort of decision, and at the very least, this thing goes over 8.5 rounds. And the last time I looked, Dave, over 8.5 was going to pay you double your money. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking that's got to be in there somewhere. So as I take a look at the numbers here today, if we go to boxing UFC, depending on
By the way, Conor McGregor's birthday today. 29 years old. Today.
So looking at the numbers, so that's no money to just bet on Mayweather. The round betting on when they think it's going to be called, but the fight outcome, once again, Floyd Mayweather by decision is a 3. Total rounds, if it goes over, see, 8.5, it's a 172 if it goes over 8.5. If it goes to 10 rounds, it's a 2.20. So that's doubling your money. And do you think that this fight is going to be solved one way or the other by a knockout?
I don't think it is.
I don't because
I don't think it is.
Connor's taken those shots to the face in UFC, and they're generally not knocking him down.
Bingo.
And he's a bigger guy, slightly bigger guy.
Slightly.
Than Mayweather. And with the bigger gloves, I just don't see this thing ending by a knockout.
They're not pillows like a lot of people sit there and say they're, but I guess in UFC terms, yeah, they are. For Conor McGregor, I think it favors him just considering that the guy's used to close to, like nothing on the fist and he's delivering those and taking those. Now, same thing with his offense. His offense may not be as offensive as it would have been with a smaller glove. So I don't know. He's fighting against arguably the best defensive fighter in boxing history, who has never lost a fight in the history of his pro career. I just don't see him losing this at all. I don't.
God, I hope it happens, though. But that's the one thing, though. I think even people who say, yeah, it's a circus, yeah, it's just all done for money. I see that, some website sort of accosted Chuck Liddell to see what he thought. He goes, well, it's just a circus. It's about the money. It's blah, blah, blah. But are you going to watch it? Yeah, I'm going to. I think, I don't know who doesn't watch it. Like, who doesn't watch this fight? What, on some sort of principle or morals, or you think that somehow changing, putting one discipline into another is sort of beneath you, so therefore it's too exhibition or circus-like, so you're not even going to pay attention. I just don't see that. Do you remember those shitty fights that they put together between the loser celebrities? Remember, like Screech from Saved by the Bell?
Yeah, I've seen those. Yep.
And a couple.
It was like celebrity boxing, basically. Jose Canseco was in it too.
Tanya Harding.
Yes,
a couple so your sleaze bags, your douche bags, your losers, your B-list celebrities, your Saved by the Bell outcasts, your Danny Bonaducci went in that thing.
Yes, he was,
and he got like you can't look too serious. But I think he worked out for like 6 months.
No, he took it serious.
And then had like liposuction and did it was just weird what he did. I don't know if he won. I think he had to fight Screech. Like Danny Bonaducci against Screech. Like that's just weird.
Yeah. I'm watching it though.
I watched every fight. I watched every one of those things. Then there was the one girl that Bill Clinton was with, the really ugly one. Was it Paula something?
There was obviously
there was a couple.
There was a couple.
There was a couple. But this was the one that was actually in when he was in Arkansas.
Okay.
He's sitting by the side going, "Come on, Daddy wants to see something." And she was in there, and she got all the face work and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And she went in there. I watched it. And guess what? Oh yeah, you know who also was in that thing? People might know too. It was Vanilla Ice.
Okay. Yeah.
Vanilla Ice.
Vanilla Ice has done a lot of different reality. He's even in some of these reality shows that build houses and fix stuff.
I don't mind the guy.
No.
So what?
I'm okay with it. Hey, he had a big hit too. Who cares? Only one.
Ice Ice Baby. You didn't dance to that? Okay, maybe you
Please.
didn't dance, but you had drinks and laughed and stuff.
Absolutely, you did.
Okay, the video you could have passed on.
Sure.
The video that got a little weird.
Mm-hmm.
And then he started making up stuff about being a motorbike or a motocross champion. Isn't that
something like that? Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
What? I'm going to start yelling at people for not.
Yeah. Who hasn't done that?
Telling the truth.
Who hasn't done that?
Oh my God! And Russell just filled full of lies. Should have seen him last night at For Your Eyes Only.
What was he yesterday?
A doctor.
Doctor.
Yeah.
Doctor. Okay.
Yeah, doctor of feet though, like a foot doctor.
That's weird.
Well, you should have seen.
He starts going Rex Ryan on them.
Yeah.
Just saying, it's like whatever. That's your choice. I mean, I usually go, some sort of athlete of some nature.
Looking at
doctor, that works too.
Doctor's fine. How are they going to know? Do you see doctors who look like that? Yeah.
Yeah, big time.
You're not going linebacker.
Hashtag Doogie.
Yeah, okay, I'll leave that one alone. Before we get too excited about the NBA Summer League, so Lonzo Ball, so they're playing Cleveland, kind of. You know what I mean? It's like
sort of
like looking at NHL exhibition, going, "Oh yeah, they wiped out Pittsburgh last night." Well, Pittsburgh played a couple of their moms, and I think in goal they put a dog in there. You know what I mean? Like it's just really not.
The dog was good though.
Murray's going, "You better not do what you just did to Marc-Andre Fleury." No, the dog. We're just looking at the dog. It's just he came in from. So Lonzo. Lonzo Ball has been getting like triple doubles. I'm like, okay, that's still good. The one thing that you have to admit is the kid has the skills. This isn't like something that's been pushed by a father that somehow gets him to be in, the top 2 of the NBA draft. The guy at UCLA was the real deal. But just to watch him play in terms of the athleticism, so you start doing the math on this and start thinking about what if LeBron does end up going to LA? What if Paul George and they all sort of team up and all become the super friends and all go to the LA Lakers? Are you going to hate seeing stuff like this? Now, once again, this is courtesy and property of the National Basketball Association and our friends at ESPN.
Ball of the Los Angeles Lakers taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers tonight. He's rolling in some 3 stripes, the Adidas. Ball on the drive, reversed it. Up and under, and the ball game has started. Slammed on the brakes, ball with the loop.
Boom goes the dynamite.
Pass to NBA players during the regular season.
There he goes.
Falls Zubac, great combo. 8
dish.
assists now for Lonzo Ball.
He's beating Cleveland.
Nice pass. Nice.
Kuzma at the other end.
Beautiful highlights.
Look at this again.
Another run out. Kuzma got it. And Ball has
Look at the
10
touch on that.
times already.
Makes the game easy for his teammates.
Anticipation to steal and room service for Lonzo.
There we go. Well, there it is.
Ball from deep.
Look at that.
Wow, Carter County downtown. Kuzma and another assist from Lonzo Ball. That just might do it. And the Los Angeles Lakers.
There it is. That's right. The Lakers beat the real Cleveland Cavaliers. That's what happened there.
Of Summer League.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's not quite that way. And once again, it is the Summer League. Take it for what it's worth. But I think still when you start looking at the athleticism that you saw right there, I'm looking forward to it. Why can that not be an engaging story? And at least we didn't have to hear from his dad either. Because I'm calling a timeout when his dad comes in. But you know what? It all lends itself to the ball story. So speaking of ballers, we got one in studio right now. Our good friend Will Strickland. Will, thanks for coming in, my man.
What's going on, Mike? What's going on, Dave?
How's it going, buddy? Good to see you again.
Yeah, I got held up by the pork chop squad on my way over.
No, you didn't.
No.
Yeah, I mean, that could be twisted in a couple of different ways.
Sure, it can. Can you sue? Can you sue someone? Can I get in on this?
No, but all things aside, I do apologize for being delinquent. And as my dear old mother says, never come empty-handed, so I came bearing gifts.
Oh,
Gifts.
Nice.
I have gifts, so we'll talk about that in a second.
All right.
But I noticed you guys are talking about Summer League basketball.
Yes.
NBA has grown so much that people are paying $250 for courtside seats in Las Vegas for Summer League.
So
games.
that game we just watched, the Lakers Cavs, you're paying
To capacity.
$200.
Some guys are paying $250 for courtside seats because that's how exciting these new rookies are, and even some of the guys who are trying to make it in the league, and the way that the league is now developing their farm system, if you will, with the G League. Now it's not the D League anymore.
It's the G League.
Yeah.
Because
Gatorade's on board.
Right.
So
there's a chance to make money and a chance to publicize,
but
right?
it also helps the players, like guys who were making $25,000 a year last year because of the new CBA are now making $50,000 a year. But when they go up to the parent club, because now each parent club has their own like minor league team, you don't go up for 2 10 days anymore or a 10-day anymore. You go up for 45 days. So they added roster spots for guys to play, and you go up and you make NBA scale as opposed to making G League scale. So that's like a great thing for the players. I think fans are involved, and it also gives these young guys, if you watch this year with the Raptors 905, they won the D League championship. Jerry Stackhouse was the coach of the year. A lot of things are going on there when I was like, okay, and I wrote an article about the 2017-2018 Toronto Raptors and what they might look like. But the bottom line is this. Basketball, with the Summer League growing like this, with the under-19 team, winning for the first time in Canadian history.
Yeah, incredible.
A gold medal on the international stage. Shout out to Roy Rana and that whole staff, the young people, R.J. Barrett and Lindell Wigington and Nate Darling and all those guys. Great job coming back and bringing the gold back to Canada for the first time ever. Like, the game of basketball is growing, and Segways, much like tricks, are for kids. And I have a tournament going on, so there's a lot of basketball going on here. I'm a professional. Don't try this at home. And my basketball tournament is part of a global initiative called Full Court 21 Canada. And it's great that it's the 150th birthday of Canada because it's all about being outdoors. It's about family fun. It's a community-based initiative that we're doing all around the world. I do the 5 Canadian dates right now, but last year we had winners who came from Mali, Benin, Ghana, Hong Kong, New Zealand, Tokyo, 4 of the cities in Japan, Beijing, Krakow, Poland, Berlin, London, Paris, 8 cities in the States, and the 5 cities here, Vancouver, Toronto, Edmonton, Montreal, and Halifax. So tomorrow we are at the Waterfront Community Center at Queens Quay and Bathurst.
Okay.
From 12 to 6 tomorrow. Registration starts at 11:30. Games start promptly at 1 p.m. And I couldn't remember which size you guys
Look at
wear.
this.
So
Large is always good.
You know, I got mediums and larges. I knew you were a little extra buff, Mike, so I want to make sure that I gave you a choice. So, you know, green or black, because somehow
green for the Irish is always beautiful.
Well, and this is the beautiful part. So, Dave, I don't know if you're large or medium.
I'm not sure either, but they look fantastic.
You
Is
know
it
what?
the same one you're wearing right now?
No, this is a different one. This is my sponsor, Brad Lamb.
Yeah, very good realtor in the area. Maybe the best of the best.
A huge realtor is a great guy. Walked into fresh. Well, can I say that? Because I don't know if you guys have.
No,
you can do whatever you want.
Sponsorship.
Bring
so,
it.
You know,
you can do whatever you want.
I guess a healthy fast food alternative in the city.
I've been to it too. You can say it.
You know, and walked in. I did my elevator pitch with him, and he was like, "You send me something, I'll take care of it," and he did. So, shouts to Brad Lamb for being a sponsor and getting involved. And like I said, it's right in the community. He's right there on King Street, and was really like, he didn't even worry about it. He saw what it was, he understood it, and he said, "Let's commit." So, shout out to Brad Lamb and the Lamb Development Corporation. Shout out to my man Bobito Garcia, who actually invented the game. Like, and if you don't know what the game is, it's called Full Court 21 Canada. So I'll give you guys an idea. Which camera should I
This
leave?
you're gonna go right here.
Will.
Straight in front.
All right, so here we are, Full Court 21, right? And the idea around it is that, you know, your first, I guess, love affair, or your first, I guess, contact with basketball is not in rep ball. It's not playing AAU. It's not going overseas and winning a gold medal. That's not your first contact with the game. Your first contact generally comes, especially from a competitive standpoint, comes in when you're playing in the backyard or off the garage against your brother or sister, or in the driveway beating them up or whatever. And then you graduate. You end up graduating and going to the park. When you get to the park, you don't know who's there. So it's normally like an old guy who's always at the park.
Yeah,
It's the old Y guy. It's the old Y guy, and guess what? You think he doesn't have any chops, and then you get into the Y, and that old guy keeps beating you. He's got a better defense, and you're just rejecting the ball, and it's very frustrating.
And the worst part is, this is the guy who goes, "Oh, I can't run, I can't shoot, but let's shoot free throws for push-ups." And you end up doing push-ups against this 80-year-old guy because he never misses free throws. So that's the guy at the court. And then there's another guy, you know, who played at university or college somewhere, maybe even pro overseas somewhere. And then there's a guy we like to call the costume. The guy who shows up in an entire Toronto Raptors uniform.
That's me.
And can't play a lick.
Okay, maybe not the whole uniform, but for sure
the whole
top.
uniform.
No, for sure the
whole,
top.
yeah.
And the shoes.
But the best part about that is the community. And all skill levels are welcome. And it's just a great game. Like I said, we're doing it all around the world. And all these characters end up showing up. And they're a part of the narrative we try to grow with Full Court 21.
So is it 5-on-5? How does it work
No,
exactly?
Sir,
What is it?
you against the world.
No, really?
And in Canada, they like to call the game American. So it's you against the other guys who are at the park. And the first one to 21 wins.
Oh, okay,
and when you play out there like that, it's half court generally. And guys can hack you until somebody wants to fight.
Yeah.
That's really how, you know, if you think about it, it's like, you know, if you're playing ball hockey and guys,
it is.
it's the same thing, right? So,
because New York is New York City is filled for some of those
Almost
and famous parks too. Like big time players came out of there.
Yeah, you know, you got the Rucker, you got West Fourth, but in Toronto, our West Fourth, our Rucker ends up being the Waterfront Community Center outdoor courts. Like because of the foot traffic, the location, right there in the water, and during the summer, it's a great place to play. And you hear some of the best trash talk. I actually wrote a story, or I was actually interviewed for the Globe and Mail a couple of years ago when I had LeBron James here. He was here for tips, actually, and they screened his film. I can't remember the name. More Than a Game, I think it was.
Okay.
And we ended up talking about this, but it was funny because we were trying to figure out where's that place and what is that thing here in Toronto that says basketball. That's that place. And everyone knows that place. You see so many commercials being shot down there. You know that a lot of guys go there. It's just a great atmosphere for basketball.
So let's talk. You brought up a couple of really interesting points all at once. There was a bunch of stuff in there that you said I hope that people picked up on. And it's something that I do talk about, and that's about development. That's about development. And so you mentioned at sort of the grassroots level, which is what you're talking about when you're really young, when you're experiencing what it's like to be competitive against sometimes strangers the first time when the adrenaline's going. And that's where I think you really need that huge mentorship. That's where you need someone to tell, young kids, don't panic, don't start chucking the ball. This is what you need to do. Then you start talking about, when you go and play collegiate ball all the way to pros and, things like the D League, like now the G League. And my thing is, when I take a look at how ball is played right now, especially at the NBA level, when you start talking about development, my only problem is, and look, I don't pretend that they're going to go back to, it's going to be, juniors and seniors.
Out of the bottle.
That's not going to happen. But I mean, it's just I would love to see 2 years only because I think that from an emotional standpoint, from a maturity standpoint, and sometimes from a physical standpoint, when they're going to play for Coach Cal and they have like 1 year and they go into the pros, if you're a blue chip guy, I get that. But most of the world are not blue chip guys. They're just not. And so they need to have... And that's why I think if they had another year with Coach K or Bill Self or, go down the list of, and I'm not mentioning the big programs. You don't have to come from a big program. You don't. And I'd like to see more mature, from the maturity, understand to be a better professional, which means, sometimes in some cases, you want to see the body be a little bigger.
We're going to have a fundamental disagreement here, Mike.
Yes.
Mostly because... with the minor league system, and you look at the same thing in hockey and in baseball, you get 14 and 15-year-old kids who are in the minor league systems, and they get developed there, so they get paid for what they do. You pull Dominican kids off of cane farms in the Dominican Republic who are throwing baseballs made out of paper, and they end up being guys with like $200 million worth of gold around their necks.
And let me just say,
later. So
people talk, if they're listening about the Dominican, you're not lying. I played in one of those games where it was a wrapped up piece of paper with like gum and some tape and stuff like that in the middle of their town on a street where it was an impromptu game. They give me a stick and the game was on, and that's exactly what they used.
Well, think about coming from that. Like when you go from nothing to something, and we talk about maturity all the time. The 45th president of the United States still hasn't paid his taxes or showed you his tax returns, but we talk about financial maturity. With a guy, and he's in his 70s. So again, that comes, with a little, like, I look at every situation individually. I can't say that as a collective, these young men who have an opportunity to make millions of dollars and were eating sandwiches like a week before. Now they're 19-year-old millionaires. I don't begrudge them. This is, in North America, they have the opportunity and the freedom and the right to do that at whatever age that's allowable. And if it's 18 when you graduate from high school, so be it. I don't feel the same degree of hand-wringing about hockey or tennis or baseball. And maybe if you look at the dynamic of those sports, when you look at the major revenue-generating sports, they are majority black. They are. Professionally,
yeah.
You look at basketball and football. I mean, baseball is doing great, and the majority of those players are now Latino, and there are only 62 black players in Major League Baseball now. But they still generate a lot of capital. It's not the same capital that the NFL or NBA is generating right now, but it's on that level. But you think about it, even in university, Baseball not generating what football generates. They're not generating what March Madness generates. And so I guess it's all in who's making the money.
Well, see, because there's two things happening here. You're talking, about the financial rewards for some of these kids, and what I think has hurt the NBA. So if I'm looking at, okay, so let's compare the NHL to the NBA. In the NHL, if you're an 8th seed, if you somehow get in as a wild card, and Dave, jump in anytime because we do from time to time talk about this, it is conceivable that a wild card team in the NHL can run the table like Edmonton did one time, and again
Los Angeles did a couple years ago.
It's that you can kind of see that is possible. I look at the NBA, and there's a massive discrepancy because we're talking about LeBron all the time in the East, and unless he moves to the West, that it's over. Like I'm not seeing an 8th seed go in there. Cleveland's not going to lose. I think that the level of basketball to me has gone down to the point where there are some teams when the season starts that maybe 4, 5, 6 of them they're not making the playoffs after day number 1. And part of that reason is, I think anyway, is the quality of play is now being spent and a lot of money on developing, not from a monetary standpoint, from the actual technical aspects of playing the game, where I think if they had another year to develop their skills, I don't know if the NBA has to spend so much time and money on G leagues, on people chanting for Bruno to come in there. And then some of these guys get into the game and like BB and so on, and I'm thinking, I don't know if they're ready to play at that level.
Well,
that's what I talk. To me, it's about really the development and the quality of the game itself. And I think even to a degree, like if I'm going to expand on this, I think the NFL is just as guilty. Because I'm looking at a couple of elite teams, and then I'm looking at the bottom feeders, number 5, 6, like at the bottom. They ain't getting to the playoffs.
And
they're not beating.
They don't even have a developmental system,
and
in
they
the NFL.
don't because they went to 1 year, and then all of a sudden that running back, and he blows out his knee.
You have to play up to your junior year in college to be eligible for
right 2 years in. Yes,
three.
Was it 3?
It's actually 3.
Okay,
you have to play to your junior year.
And I'm still saying that to a degree. Now, look, it's apples and oranges when you're talking about what happens. Because look, if a family's dependent upon a guy making it to the NFL, the problem is to me in that sport is that there's a lot of pressure, and let's say you're a running back on every single play, your career could be over, and you ain't getting paid after that.
And that could be the offensive lineman. It could be
anything.
A line judge standing on the sideline who gets his knee blown out. I mean, we can do that part of it all day, and I think that with the NFL, parity exists in the NFL, even though there are certain teams are going to be in the mix in some shape, form, or fashion. Always, even when Tom Brady's gone from the Patriots, you have this idea that if Bill Belichick stays, that somehow because he understands what it takes to win, that you can plug people into that system, whatever, and at least be competitive. If not Tom Brady-esque, go Pats. And Blue know it. You have to let him know. I'm a Tom Brady fan since he was at University of Michigan. He used to break my heart there. So he's doing this thing now. He's the greatest to ever play the game. But you look at the NFL, there's parity there. There's never, ever, ever, ever been parity in the NBA. There's no way you have 4 teams who have won over 40 championships if there's ever parity. So when people talk about the quality of the game is greater now than it's ever been. When you look at the skill level.
So you feel the NBA is better now than it was?
I think it's improved. It's just a different game.
Right.
I don't want to say necessarily better or worse. I just think it's a different game, and I think it's still quality. It's just a different quality. And because people have not adjusted to that quality, like you look at Golden State, they're a historically great team. With even without Kevin Durant, they're historically great. You look at Cleveland Cavaliers, you look at LeBron James, who's doing things in the NBA now that have been done since the unicorn days. And a lot of stuff I say is biblical. When you look at Wilt averaging 50, like 46 was an off night for Wilt when he averaged 50 back in the 1960s. It was the 1961-62 season. And because Russell Westbrook, the same season that Oscar Robertson, averaged a triple-double, we see it live, and somehow we have to look at the ghost on the wall in order to say, well, why is this happening? Is the game worse now, or was the game worse back then, right? Like, why can't you accomplish these things now and not have it looked at in the same way we look at the accomplishments of Wilt Chamberlain, of Bill Russell, of Oscar Robertson in the 60s? These guys dominated the league. Sometimes, this is not participation medal time. You're going to have the cream always rise to the top, no matter what the case is. and those guys are going to excel. So when you see the Clevelands of the world, you see LeBron James, he's the greatest player in the world right now. That's not in dispute, right? The Golden State Warriors, the best team in the world. That's not in dispute. So you're still going out to compete because anything can happen. Anything can happen. And I guess, again, with the segues, talking about Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor, you know, people are up in arms. We're talking about the Irish, and you know I'm part Irish too. We talked about.
See, I think you're also part
Wait a
Saskatoon.
second,
Is it Saskatoon or Moose Jaw? I can't remember. It was Moose Jaw.
I mean,
the
like
mayor.
The slave master whose name I bear on a daily basis is from Ireland. In doing the research,
Was he nice to you though? Was he?
I wasn't there. You know, I couldn't tell you. But I'm here. You know, and so the whole idea of this racial dynamic between Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather existed way before Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. When you think about the physical arts and Jack Johnson, the great white hope, Jim Jeffries, and guys like that. You know, the idea that somehow there's good and bad, and there's, you know, it's how you set it up. It's almost like wrestling, or as we like to call it, wrestling. Right. And that you utilize these racial dynamics because, especially with the racial climate of the world right now, it's easy bake and it's lowbrow to sell it, right? But it existed before these guys ever showed up. Do I blame them for some of the things that are coming out? No, not necessarily. They understand that now they've gotten people believing that a guy who's never boxed before in his life, and don't get me wrong, mixed martial arts is incredible, and he's not like some guy just walking in off the street like a strongman contest who's going to box right here in the bar or something. He's like a guy who's skilled in combat sports. So he has that advantage of some outside of some guy coming in off the street. But Floyd Mayweather is probably the most skilled boxer who's ever breathed air on this planet.
Yeah, and I think most people would agree with everything that you have said.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm looking at it and you know, someone's telling me that you're coming out of your discipline to go into a discipline where this guy, there really isn't an equivalent. Like you can go through, you can talk to any, like when, God bless him, Burt Sugar and had her on the show for all those years, and all these guys would come on. They would start talking. They wouldn't talk about Oscar De La Hoya. They wouldn't talk about. They would start the conversation at Floyd Mayweather, and a lot of people don't want to hear it, you know, because people start having these ethical or moral feelings about people
about boxing.
And I'm like, wait a minute, yeah, wait a minute. Guys end up at the bottom of lakes and buried in sand holes when you start talking about boxing. So let's keep that in mind, right? Let's keep that in mind. What I thought was interesting, I think about this fight, is number one, you've got the wrestling WWE sort of feel to the, and I think we talked about today, they're running out of material. Like I don't know how many more of these that they want to have aside from everyone calling everyone else a bitch. Right. I mean, I can only have so many hours of that.
Right.
But when Floyd comes out and he's in Brooklyn, I would think he would have been shown a lot more love than he was getting, but that wasn't happening there. And I wonder, you know, we talk about sometimes the black and white issue. Why is he not being shown more love? Is it really not a black and white issue? It's just people seeing, you know, like the thing about the taxes always comes up and about people not paying their taxes. Do you think there is a definitive line between black and white, or is it personalities? Or do you think it's personalities?
They have the same personality. But where Conor McGregor can be outgoing and brash, and they go, "Oh, this is just the hubris of youth." Floyd Mayweather, it's frowned upon, and that happens with a lot of black athletes. You ask Ali, not that you can't ask him now, but I mean, if you think about Ali, that he was outspoken, and because he was outspoken, he was seen as somebody who's stepping out of line and not staying in his place. That's never been said to Conor McGregor.
No.
So
no.
The same brashness that both of them exhibit, one is embraced and the other one is frowned upon. Ask yourself why. And we can pretend like it doesn't exist. But race is a part of daily life, whether we want to ignore it or not. And I actually say race 100 times a day to keep my teeth white. That's just my thing. But it's a part of it. Yeah. And the more we try to ignore it, you know, because they're using it to enhance sales on this fight, whether we want to admit that or not. It's a part of it. It always has been. These guys are not, they're complicit in the execution of this crime, but they also understand that even if they weren't, even if they stood and didn't say anything about it, that would exist in the populace, because people always look at Floyd Mayweather as the bad guy. Here's the guy who has, and he chose to do that. Once he changed his name from Pretty Boy to Money Mayweather, and it was all about the dollars. But really, you fight for a prize. You don't fight for pride. Nobody's going out there to get CTE because they enjoy it. You can play baseball, you can play basketball, you can play football. You can't play boxing, and that's real. So if you're going to go out, the risk-reward model is a little bit different in combat sports.
I agree 100%.
And so these guys go out, and he goes, well, when I was trying to do it like the good old American gold medalist, or silver medalist because he got robbed in the Olympics in '96.
Yep.
And comes out, and Bob Arum tries to make him like the black Oscar De La Hoya. And he's winning fights, but he can't make $1. And Oscar De La Hoya is a Latino crowd. The Latino crowd is always one of the most loyal in boxing.
For sure.
You can sell that. You can sell Oscar, right? But Floyd was like, okay, let me take control of my life. And I changed my persona, and I bought into the racial dynamic that from Jack Johnson to Muhammad Ali onward, that's my lineage, and that I actually make more money being defiant in the face of what America's supposed to be, right? When America tells me that I don't have a real place, I'm going to stand up and say I'm as American as anyone else.
Well, so you also bring up, when we're talking about, the racial dynamic in this world, there's always a feeling, I think, that at least inherently people want to always feel like things are better, that things are moving forward, that we look back at a time in the 1960s and you look at Memphis and Alabama, that we go, well, we know we're not that. But how much further have we really come? I can only speak as a coming up in a upper middle class home in Stouffville, Ontario, where the only black people I saw was Jimmy Walker there was no association with it. So when people start talking about their own experience and so on, it wasn't until I started playing at a higher level of sports that you start meeting not only Canadians who were black, and most of them were Jamaican. That was, the different kind of thing. It's not the same experience south of the border. So then when that comes into my collective, and things like Black Lives Matter and movements like that come forward, someone like myself now 54, I take a look at it and I think as people, we certainly don't have that, maybe that outward angry, ignorant border that existed. But it seems like it's still like we're not getting along.
No, it's sad when you have the most powerful person on the planet kind of engendering these kind of feelings in audiences and having a platform to do so. And I can't blame everything on Drumpf. And for what he is what he is. I mean, he, for everyone that said he wouldn't win, he's there. So there had to be a lot of people who were like, we're going to take the most qualified person who probably ever ran for the presidency in Hillary Clinton. Like, her qualifications, if you're running for something like that, are impeccable.
Oh, one had qualifications, the other one had none.
Right. Whatever you believe about her, and this is kind of, if you look at the dynamic, in a world that white, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant males, especially in North America, feel like they control that. The landed gentry of North America, and we're here, and we've built this. Okay, so we want to make sure we maintain that. And I understand that. I understand that there's a sense of ownership for something you stole in the first place. But that's a whole nother conversation. But
because you don't hold yourself, I'll be honest, you don't hold yourself as an angry person to me. You look like someone who wants to solve a problem rather than just talk about it. Or am I wrong on that one? Because I don't think you come across.
I am solutions-based, Mike. I am. It is not my obligation to solve the world's problems. I can only exist in the world that I'm in and try to make the best that I can make it through my interactions as a human being. So when people say, oh, I don't see color, that's actually more disrespectful than saying, I embrace your race and I embrace your color because that's who you are. That's a part of who you are. And so for me, these things are like, I eat like you eat. I watch the TV you put on television. I don't control that. I don't control the media. So I see what is given to me. What I have to do is discern between what I know and what's being fed to me. And my interactions with each individual, no matter what they look like, because not all black people are righteous and not all white people are devils either. Yeah, I don't look at it like that. That's ridiculous. And you don't treat people like that. But people do because we end up buying into a media narrative that doesn't really exist. When you walk out in the most multicultural and ethnically diverse city in the world, in Toronto, I don't feel that. But, you know, in the workplace, there are ceilings. There's almost like a more covert sense of, I like to call it institutionalized, not necessarily racism all the time, but a certain degree of institutionalization that exists where, you know, I could be your best friend at work, but don't date my daughter. Like, what's the difference, right? If we're cool, we're cool, right? If you know that I can do the job, let me do the job. And I don't want to get too heavy. We're talking sports, but that's all a part of it. You know, it's sports and politics and race. It's all a part of it. And sports is supposed to be the great equalizer. You know, when you get on the field, either you can do it or you can't. Conor McGregor can do it. Conor McGregor can fight. Whether he can box the greatest boxer in the world is irrelevant, but that people are buying into the notion that one lucky punch, the lucky punch that no one in 21 plus years has landed and who have been trained to do this,
all of a sudden it's going to happen.
like Hall of Famers who couldn't even touch him. Juan Manuel Marquez was arguably the second best fighter in the world when he fought Floyd Mayweather, who hadn't fought in 2 years. He was fighting the Big Show on WrestleMania.
That's right.
Okay? He comes back. He treats Juan Manuel Marquez like a $5 a day training partner. Juan Manuel Marquez hit Floyd Mayweather 69 times in 12 rounds. That's less than 6 punches per round. This is the guy who knocked Manny Pacquiao out. He couldn't touch Floyd Mayweather in his prime. Now, I know that Floyd's older, and the sell job is the best. Oh, I'm rusty, and I've been training. You don't take this fight if you know you can't do it.
Now, I can tell you, I don't know what your plans are. Do you have plans for the 26th?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because I have some plans for you, too, on the 26th.
What's
I haven't
that?
made the announcement.
Yeah, we
yet.
might have to intercept
We
your
might
plans.
have to change your plans.
I would love that.
Yes.
My accountant is here somewhere in the building, so we'll talk about that off air and make sure that the numbers match. But I would enjoy that actually, and I do appreciate you guys allowing me on to pontificate and have the platform to talk about all these things from basketball to race and boxing, like
but
all this other stuff.
The reason to do, I talk about it, we're actually going to Calgary for a week and broadcasting out of the casino, the Elbow River Casino. It's the reason that Dave and I are doing this. It's like, we go around, we have our fun, there's impressions, as there always is, but then to get perspective, like really from people who live in the world, who aren't on just to say,
we don't have too many smart people like Will on the show.
No, in fact, I think it's
'cause
one.
Will
I already in the mail, Dave. The check's in the mail.
I think it's
just saying,
the only one I think that we have. Now, I know we're going to run a little bit out of time here, but I do want to ask you, on the topic of basketball and people sort of arguing back and forth about, not only the Eastern Conference, but the Raptors as a whole on what has happened in the offseason, better or worse, and what does it mean going forward into the fall? Where do the Raptors fit? Do you think that the Raptors, and again, it's like people say, are you better or are you worse? They lose Tucker. But a player like C.J. Miles comes in, which I think is a nice story. Corey Joseph goes out. I'm a little disappointed about that, only because he's a local guy from where I live and he knows a lot of.
Wasn't working out. During the
It's
season.
just. But I know why the move was made. But I still take a look at some things that I find to be difficult. Looking at Jonas Valanciunas. If I'm Jonas Valanciunas, I'm going, I don't know, why am I on this team? I think there probably is a place for him in the NBA. I just don't think it's with the Raptors, and I don't know how interested the Raptors. Like we talk about. James, who went to Miami.
James Johnson, who just got $60 million in Miami and was a legitimate Man of the Year candidate last year because of what Eric Spoelstra and how he used it.
Yeah, we were always disappointed. Look, I like Coach Casey, but on that one topic, I was like,
a lot of people felt the same way that you do.
We can't get him on that lineup because it's been proven that I think that was a mistake.
Well, at the end of the day, I think the only mistake, and this is before the season started, the only real misstep that Masai Ujiri has ever made in the front office was signing DeMar Carroll from Atlanta, who was already damaged goods in the playoffs from the year before, to the contract he signed him for. He's trying to correct that wrong now, but I think it's a little bit too late for that. Other than that, like what he did with getting rid of Rudy Gay's contract, Andrea Bargnani's contract, bringing in a team and changing the culture here. hopefully forever. But changing the culture to a winning culture is a big deal. I wrote an article that spoke about what they should do in 2018. There's no disrespect to
Where are you
Coach
writing all these
Casey.
articles?
On Press Basketball, which is one of my sponsors as well.
Yeah, let's talk about that because people are going to say, you know,
you
when.
can look at it on the back of my shirt.
There we go.
Right?
All right.
The Open Run, my column on Press Basketball. And I wrote this article about what the Raptors should look like in 2017, 2018. Again, no disrespect to Coach Casey, but sometimes you have a voice in the locker room for so long that sometimes you need a new voice. And that new voice is a booming voice. A guy who is the D-League Coach of the Year, Jerry Stackhouse, who's come up. I didn't realize how intensely he studies. You know, and that's not something common for North Carolina players. But, I mean, unless that's just me taking shots. But Jerry Stackhouse really studies. He's really in tune with what's going on, and the players love him. And so I'm like, okay, well, if they make the change, Jerry Stackhouse has earned that spot. And if Masai Ujiri wants to save money, and stay under the salary cap, because I don't see the Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment paying the luxury tax for this team. They're not the Maple Leafs. They're not going to pay the luxury tax. That's just my impression. So I asked myself, Kyle Lowry, do I give him 5 years and $200 million? Or do I let him walk? Masai Ujiri was masterful in getting these guys shorter contracts for half that money. Same thing with Serge Ibaka. I knew they were going to keep Ibaka. I thought that if I had to weigh keeping Kyle Lowry for 5 years and $200 million, or letting him walk and bringing another guy who can give you some offense and give you some stuff, and you know you're going to get like at least 2 good years out of him, the last 2 years of his contract, and Carmelo Anthony coming here, which to me would have been something that keeps them competitive, because now the Maple Leafs are starting to win.
Now, would Melo come?
He's a contending team in the East. He's not going to contend in the West unless he goes to a place like Houston or something like that. So why not look at that as an opportunity? It's a great city. You're 45 minutes on a private jet away from New York City if you want to be there in a minute. So there are some variables that made sense for Carmelo to come here. $54 million, 2 years left, and he's off your books, right? Instead of giving Kyle 5 years, and you know you're going to get 2 good years out of him, and still be on the books for 3 years at $140 million plus, and not quality years. I leave that alone. But so you save almost $50 million by bringing in Carmelo. You let Corey Joseph and DeLon Wright run the point, and you still have Van Fleet, who's playing well in the summer league right now. He's looking like a guy who can help a ball club. Then you move Jonas to the bench. The reason why, he could beat up on second unit guys. He could be the Greg Monroe. He can be the Enes Kanter from OKC.
I'm not hating that. I'm not hating that at all.
If you're going to keep him here, he should not be starting. You make Serge Ibaka in the new league. Serge Ibaka ends up being your 5. Carmelo Anthony ends up being your 4. Norman Powell ends up being your 3. Corey starts to the point until DeLon is ready, because I feel like they want really DeLon to be the point guard of the future for this team. You still saw they moved Corey, so you know that's probably in the plans.
Yeah, futures now.
And then you have DeMar in the backcourt. Now, on your bench, you needed shooting. Everyone talks about shooting. So you go out, you bring the prodigal son back to the city and let him retire as a Raptor, Vincent Lamar Carter. He just signed a 1 year, $8 million deal. You get him on the cheap. You let him retire here. You let him the redemption story. You keep the team interested. There's interest in the team if you bring him here, because again,
it's a story.
The Maple Leafs are getting better. You bring Carmelo in, you bring him, and then C.J. Miles was on my list as well. You bring in a guy who shot 40% from 3 last year. So Vince shot 38% from 3 last year at 40 years old. On a bad team in Indiana, C.J. Miles shot 40%, and he shot enough of them to qualify as a great shooter from the 3. Now you're going to have a better team to play with. So you get those guys. You get Serge re-signed. You get Carmelo in here. You get Vince. You get C.J. Miles. Are you still competitive? Absolutely. Do you stay under the cap? Absolutely. So I'm waiting for my stripes, Masai. So
I was going to say, maybe there's some room for you in this organization.
I feel like there is.
Yeah. I mean,
that's just me, though. I'm an army of one.
Awesome. Hey, I keep saying before we go, but I do want to get this in because I also talked about this at the top of the show. I'm old school in this way. Even if it's the truth, and you and I are close, we're teammates, and I see you do. Okay, let's do it the other way. I do horrible things. Yeah, you're not doing horrible things. I'd be doing horrible things. Down the road, whenever it is, even if it's the truth, I think in the locker room or whatever it is, you don't talk.
It's Vegas.
That's just
the locker
me.
room is Vegas.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
what happens
when
in Vegas stays in
when
Vegas.
DeMario Carroll comes up publicly and says, well, it's just because they don't trust or there's a lack of trust in what Coach Casey said, whatever it is, in the locker room, which I don't doubt when it comes to coaches, sometimes things get tuned out. But I'm just shutting my mouth. I don't like it. And when DeMario Carroll made the money that he made over the last several years, and look, I don't begrudge guys when they make the money because they put themselves at some point in that place through sacrifice and hard play to actually get that coin. So I'm not that kind of guy. But I think when you leave, or just like when Steve Williams wrote that book about Tiger Woods, I'm like, there's a name for that in prison, and it doesn't end well.
Yeah.
It always bothered me. So when I saw that about DeMario Carroll, I never had really strong feelings one way or the other. And realized the kind of player that maybe with health and maybe a different time that he comes here, it would be a different story.
Right.
But that really, I don't like that. Speaking of the room,
I'm with you for sure. I think that when guys start to write tell-all books after they leave, I think it's a little easy bake and it's soft, in my opinion. But again, I try not to govern what another man would do. I just don't necessarily agree with how he went about it. I think that if you had that issue, you say it during the season. If you want to talk outside of class, you do it during the season. You know what? I just feel like that sometimes we have an offense that bogs itself down a little bit. That's too ISO heavy, and that's part of it. But we win and we lose as we are. So he can still make the dig if he wants to and support the team in the same breath. But then you'll know where DeMario Carroll stands. That this is what I feel about it, but at the end of the day, I'm still on this team. I'm going to do my very best to help out these guys who we know are our stars and do that. But I think he had a sense of self-worth that was a little bit too much. Like DeMario Carroll, you are DeMario Carroll for a reason, so be that guy.
Mm-hmm.
You're not a star. You're not that guy. Because you were an almost all-star in Atlanta does not mean, you're going to be better. And I guess, is it the truth that if DeMario Carroll's on your team, you're going to get swept in the playoffs by LeBron? I don't know. It happened to Atlanta, who won 60 games. It happened to Toronto, too. So, you can say whatever you want to say about the offense, whether it was great in Atlanta or it's poor here in Toronto. If the result is the same, what's the difference and what are you contributing to it? So I think it's just weak to do that. But,
Before we go, Saturday, tell us again some times, dates, when people can come. When should they show up to sign up for this?
Full Court 21 Canada, the world's most unique basketball tournament, is happening at the Waterfront Community Center. The Waterfront Neighborhood Center at Queens Quay in Bathurst from 12 to 6. You can start registering online at Eventbrite if you sign up there. We have on-site registration that starts at 11:30. Games start promptly at 1 o'clock. Come down, enjoy the day, enjoy the waterfront in Toronto on a Saturday.
It's going to be a nice
and you're going to
day
get the
too,
good day too.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day, and do remember, it's you against the world. No teammates. Bring your game. Get busy. Do work.
Work hard.
Do work at all times. We're gonna get David in a shirt. We got Mike in a shirt. Come down, support the community, support the cause.
There's no one to blame on this one. Huge thanks, Will Strickland. Always the best.
Thanks, you guys.
Welcome anytime. Love having him in today. So remember, we'll tweet that information out again later on today, and of course you'll see all the highlights from the show as you go to rawmikerichards.com, and of course the dedicated YouTube channel. So we got a lot of stuff coming up, including next week. I believe we're talking to Dominic Moore.
Yep, Smash Fest coming to Toronto on I'm going to say the 20th.
On the 20th,
yep.
And of course now Toronto Maple Leaf.
Yeah.
We suggested that.
And much more.
And so much more.
Yeah.
Have yourself a great weekend. Thanks for joining us. You're watching RawMikeRichards.com. See you later.